Welcome to a new episode of Beyond Neglected, the podcast of ANESBAT Foundation, where we explore the stories and challenges that are shaping global health. Science, in this case, is often seen as a space of progress, of innovation, and a space, apparently, of possibilities. But behind the idea, there are also stories of inequality, barriers, and voices that have historically been underrepresented. And also, actually, this is not something that happens only in the African continent. This is something that happens around the world. It's not just an African topic issue. Women in science continue to face structural challenges, from limited access to education and funding, of course, to leadership gaps and invisible ceilings that shape their careers. And yet, at the same way, their contributions are essentials for education, for science investigation, and especially on NTDs, in neglected tropical diseases. That's why today we have a very special invitee in our podcast. We have Professor Lydia from Ghana, scientific researcher at the University of Ghana, specialized in microbiology and neglected tropical diseases, particularly Buruli ulcer. Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
being here. For me, it's so nice to have you here, actually, because we've met like 3 years ago, the same place, ANESBAT Prizes.
Yes.
You were speaking on the event that year precisely about like science, woman, and so on. And this year, you're one of the best prize you could have received, actually,
Yes.
for such a professional career.
Yeah.
So in that way, congrats.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We have been speaking a lot in these years about your career, about your experience as a scientific researcher and as a professor in Ghana. But I think it's interesting that you contextualize the audience today and speak about what was the moment when you decided to put science as a priority in your life as a professional way, and what was the main feeling or the feeling you had inside yourself, and to say, yeah, until this point everything has been okay, but now I'm going to start like pushing up until I can access to science investigation. No?
Yeah.
Where was that point?
I guess for me, it's not really been a straight journey. It's been just following my interests and also listening to the suggestions of other people. So growing up, I wanted to be a farmer. I really love putting a seed in the soil, and then it germinates, it grows, and it gives you fruits or leaves that you can cook and eat. And I've always been very curious about how things work, why they work the way they do. But my journey really started when I went to the University of Ghana as a student. Initially, my mother insisted that I go and do medicine, but I didn't get into the medicine program. I rather got a double degree in biochemistry and zoology. And my undergraduate project was on Buruli ulcer. My supervisor, Professor Daniel Boache, is the first person who really stimulated scientific research and scientific thinking to me ever. And we went to the field, obviously, to look for possible vectors. And by all means, we had to go to the hospitals. And I saw my very first Buruli ulcer case. And I couldn't understand how a lesion so big and ugly was not painful. And I think that really got me thinking as to, this is something that I really want to investigate and see, how is it transmitted? How is it that people don't feel pain? What can we do to make sure that this doesn't keep happening, right? So that's the moment where I said, I think I want to do research. And the rest is history. I started looking for schools where I could go and do this kind of research. And I was very lucky to end up in a lab in the University of Tennessee with my PI, Pamela Small. And she was amazing as a role model, amazing as a mother figure, and an excellent scientist. And I learned a lot from her. And I think these two people really have led my way in science. And the ideology aligns with where I see myself going in the future.
And how would you describe, I would say in a word, it's quite difficult, but in some words, your journey until today?
It's not been linear. It's not been rosy. It's come with a lot of challenges, but there have been tremendous rewards in terms of making up your mind that you want to do something, and then it happens. Making up your mind that you want to train students, and then it happens. You train students. Making sure that you have a voice beyond your country, externally, which shows the impact of the research that you're doing. I mean, for me, you can't buy that with money.
Yeah, sure. And nowadays, I imagine like the role of woman in science may have changed from the time you started.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's my question. First question. Has it changed? And in that way, in what point are we now?
Okay.
For like women
in science. I think it's progressively getting better. We've seen incremental advances in the role that women contribute to the scientific landscape. We've seen more women being mentored into scientific careers. I mean, right now, global statistics will put it about 33%. And when I started about 20 years ago, it was half that number, right? Having said that, we still have inherent challenges which are cultural, challenges which are family or gender biased, right? Challenges which include access to funding, access to appropriate female mentors and leaders who have a voice in research leadership landscape. They still exist, but it's gotten better because now I can clearly count at least 10 strong female scientists who have showed the way and delivered. And that kind of role modeling is something that is crucial if we want to get more women in the scientific landscape.
For sure. And do you think there are differences between the role of women in science in Ghana compared to other countries in the region? Is Ghana like an example of that development, or are there any countries in West Africa which are much more developed in that way?
I think Ghana is pretty high up there. I mean, Nigeria also boasts of extremely successful women on the global front, and Ghana is doing an amazing job. I mean, we are currently in an era where we have the first female vice chancellor in the University of Ghana after 77 years. That's impressive. Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has a female vice chancellor who has been in place for 6 years. Our vice president is a woman, and she was an academic at the University of Cape Coast and also served as a vice chancellor there as well. So, yes, I think Ghana is really leading the way in terms of pushing women into leadership spaces, into research advancement. Cote d'Ivoire is also there, but Ghana is, I mean, not because I'm a Ghanaian or biased, but I think we are doing really well in Ghana.
That makes something.
Wow, you can't take that away.
It's normal to defend Ghana. It's a wonderful country at the same time. So you feel it's something like based in Ghana. What's going on in Ghana, like for women having so much power in, like, not only in having the access to investigate, but also having the access to power in university. What is different in Ghana? What do you feel? There's something around culture that may be quite differential from other countries, or?
I think I dare say that our inheritance system actually matters. We have a huge Akan population in Ghana, and the Akan tradition inherits matrilineally, which puts a lot of power in the hands of women, right? Women are the kingmakers. And And I believe somehow that is creeping into higher education. Ghanaian women are very assertive, strong, and I think we are able to place our priorities right. Having said that, we are entering a space where now we've made enough noise as women to be visible. And whether the men like it or not, they have to support us.
They don't have another
They have
choice.
no choice.
Sorry for that.
Exactly. In addition to what I mentioned earlier, which is the amount of role models which are popping up, it makes a very big difference when you see lots and lots of women doing well. You know you can do it as well. Yeah.
I'm sure, like, as every other society in the world, things are not perfect, like, actually. Which is, like, I feel imperfect societies will always exist in some way or another. Nowadays, what type of barriers do you find as scientists in Ghana? Like, specifically, like, I don't know, having access to fundings, for example. Or is there anything you think we need to tackle, like, for progress?
Yeah, I mean, definitely funding is something that you can't ignore, right? We don't have, I mean, there is a national research plan in Ghana and fund in Ghana, but very money trickles down to who actually needs it. And so we are stuck with competing with everyone in the world for research funding from Wellcome Trust, Gates Foundation, everyone else who come from countries that have more infrastructure and better infrastructure, right? So that's big. The second thing I believe is just creating the right environment for success. And what I mean by this is having systems that are not too bureaucratic and too heavily laden on delayed procurement. I mean, you can order a reagent today and it gets delivered in 3 months. And we are still supposed to be as equally as competitive as our colleagues in Harvard or Yale or, I don't know, Cambridge, who order something at 6 a.m. and it's delivered by noon, right? This is an inherent struggle. We don't have companies or biotech companies locally that are manufacturing the reagents, chemicals, and consumables we need. We need to rely on imports. That's also extremely expensive. These are costs that you can't even properly budget in any research grant to be attractive to a funder. And then you also have that small unspoken thing of science which is done in Africa or research which is done in Africa is probably not important enough. And so even trying to get the work published is another hurdle, because now you're thinking of whether reviewers would accept that the data that you are putting in there or the discussion of your results is actually credible enough because it was done in Africa, right? But there's hope. The minute you are able to put in that first publication, you feel really good about yourself. And then you start building your visibility and your brand as an excellent scientist, Yeah. So we do have significant barriers, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Like, actually, those barriers are, like, even for men, like, it's, like, nationally, everyone in Ghana, just for being part of an continent which is totally underestimated, actually, and super stereotyped.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, researchers in Ghana, they don't have nothing to say for international order. Like, they're Africans.
Yeah.
Probably their work is not so important as our work.
Exactly.
In the USA or in Spain or in France, whatever place. So yeah, I think that's something like it's a narrative that structurally has created a lot of challenges, and that you were mentioning all of them. So I think we must take into account that, of course. In your personal experience, and we were speaking of challenges, which one has been the biggest challenge?
Ooh.
Maybe there are more than one. You can speak about more than one.
Yes. I think funding definitely has been one. 2020, COVID, I applied for 9 grants. I spent my entire lockdown period writing really competitive grants. I submitted 9. I was awarded only 1. And some of the feedback in the rejected ones were really shocking, because you'd get a feedback like, oh, you've presented, the science is excellent and really good, but we don't think you can achieve or undertake this in the environment that you are coming from. And when you see something like that, you just wonder as to, really, this is a stereotype which you can't erase, right? So funding is 1. 2, there's an opportunity cost that is unspoken if you're a woman. You have to decide whether you want to fully commit to your science and your research, or you want to also have a family alongside. And it's a very fine line where you don't want to cheat any of these arms. There are fellowship opportunities, and now there are so many of them for African women in science. But they require that you have to leave your country and go to another country to spend anywhere from three months to 2 years, right? And that would mean you're leaving your family. Or you have to take your family, and that makes it even more difficult for you to concentrate and work. That's also another challenge or opportunity that I think I probably have missed out on, because I value my family very, very highly, as much as important as the work that I do, right? And speaking of family, as a woman, you have to, if you have kids, that's another big issue, because I can give you so many examples of times when I've gone to the field with my baby at my back, or had to take my baby to a conference with me and bath him in a sink in a hotel because childcare is something else, right? But yeah, all of that makes me who I am today, and I would not trade it for the world.
Of course.
But these are 3 big things that I would talk about. And then probably the last one is research leadership, right? Just trying to break that ceiling where you want to give back, I guess. Not really, because we have the capacity to work. When we want to give back in terms of leadership roles, there are a lot of issues on that front as well, because we still struggle. I think in Africa, we still struggle a lot with giving women a chance, right, to show that they can lead in whatever capacity, whether it's administration or it's even in decision-making leadership spaces. And yeah, that's another big challenge. I have had my fair share of drama just trying to serve in a leadership capacity.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very interesting turn of events. But all in all, we become more resilient, I guess. You can't give up. You just keep trying.
Of course. And what happens when we sum up to all of that, being specialized in entities?
Oof.
Because we're speaking a lot of barriers, like being a woman, science, community, like leading with your family issues at the same time you're trying to progress in your professional life. But to all of that, we sum up entities, which are also something which is quite unknown in many places. And not only unknown, but also they don't give the importance it has, like in international order, for example.
Not even just international, even in local discussions, right? I can share two instances with you where I've had some colleagues say, the science you're doing is not important enough because we are probably working on maybe malaria or HIV. And to a funder, they would say, the science you have presented is really interesting, but we don't think it's important to the rest of the world. Because obviously it's a neglected tropical disease which occurs in Africa that affects only Africans. And Big Pharma is not probably interested in that. Yeah, it is cutthroat. But like I mentioned earlier, it's the passion for what we do that keeps us going in this space. And the hope that it gives other people. For me, having trained more than 40 graduate students in NTD research, particularly Buruli, means it's no longer going to become NTD. It's going to become just a tropical disease. Because now there are 40 new people who understand and appreciate work in neglected tropical diseases, who would probably carry it on as their own career or research path, right? So from one, at least 40 have now come up. It will no longer be neglected.
So we are on our way of eradicating and eliminating the N. And
spot on.
Let it out TD, and that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also there's something about the sensibilization women normally have towards things, no?
Yeah.
I think when we work in communities, women have other ways of looking to people.
Yes.
And speaking with people.
Absolutely.
Do you feel this type of approach that only us women have is quite particular also in NTD investigation in women? What is the difference between a man who does a community search or it's in somewhere doing his analysis in conversation with a woman? What are the differences?
I dare say women have more empathy, and our approach is more invitational. And culturally, that invitation is what allows people to trust what you're doing and share their challenges very honestly with you. And so the story or the narrative that we take away as women on the field has more implication and deeper meaning, if that's the way to say it, deeper meaning compared to probably if it's a man. But having said that, that's one of the things that I'm really particular about. In my ability to mentor people, I don't only mentor women. I mentor men to have this viewpoint as well, so that eventually the narrative of men being stoic and straight with the approach shifts to men being empathetic and also being more invitational. And so it's more of a holistic mentorship approach that I have. So it's not just mentoring women to see things from my point of view, but also mentoring men as well.
Yeah, sure. I feel like we must mentor us all together. If not, things will be the same.
Exactly.
Every day and every time.
Exactly.
And also, and that's my next question, like the importance of interacting with people from the global north and from the global south, no? Like, I think there must be much more cooperation from Ghana and towards Spain, or from Spain and through Ghana. Like, I think there's something about that that's super important for the evolution of investigation and science. And,
absolutely.
And even fundings and visibility and all of that. Have you had any experience with global north leaderships or woman investigation with women, which you remember now, like, I remember that girl, she helped me in that way, or I remember I was helped by someone.
Yes.
Or, like, do you have any type of experiences?
I have incredible experiences. So my time as a graduate student in the University of Tennessee was phenomenal, because my PI was a woman, and she had her original undergraduate training in medical anthropology. Now, that gives you a viewpoint which is crucial as a scientific researcher, because you understand the nuances that come with different cultural systems, right? I learned a lot from her because of that. And she's been part of my entire journey, even up until today. In the same lab, I had other female colleagues who were all students, and we stayed in touch. My students have actually gone to their labs for further training, and vice versa. Until this day, we still write grants together. We still write papers together. There was a lady from University of Surrey who, during my graduate school days, came to visit our lab as a visiting scientist. And up until today, we stayed in touch. And she has students who trained with me who are doing their PhD there as well. So this kind of collegiality and collaboration between North and South is what would get you in spaces where you never even imagined you would be able to get. And it affords you the kind of visibility, right? Not only in the South, but also in the North. And they value those partnerships as well, because for them, it is a benefit to show that they can collaborate with other scientists in the South who are women. It builds on their credibility as well. So it's a win-win,
of course,
and harmonious relationship that we've had.
Of course. And what does leadership mean to you?
Ooh.
This is something a friend of mine asked me like a few weeks ago, and I keep thinking about that. So I am asking several people like to give me ideas. What does leadership mean to you?
My goodness. Leadership,
as a woman, I mean.
As a woman, leadership means being able to hold the hands of people and bring them to a space where they are confident in their own abilities to deliver excellence. That is leadership. It's not about you standing on some pedestal issuing commands, but it's working with everyone to bring out the best in them for a common purpose that serves the whole community that you find yourself in. And for me, as a woman, it is my utmost priority to be able to do that. When I see my students doing so well in their individual careers, that's my leadership right there. You just need to believe in that one person, and then I guess the rest is history.
Sure, for sure. I was thinking when this question was on my mind, like, I think I don't have the definition for leadership because I have never had referees. I mean, my mom, for me, is a reference. But outside my family, I have never had those references. So it's much more difficult for me understanding what is leadership in our world, like in our professional world.
Yeah.
But we are on the way.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you are having, and you are building a community that people are looking to you as a referee and someone who is great in that leadership.
I hope so.
And what would you tell to those kids and to those small children, especially women? What would you say to them? Like, be patient, don't be patient. What's your reflection on that?
This is hard. But I would say you need to, it sounds very cliche, but you really need to know who you are and what you are best at. It might be one thing, it might be two things, it might be three things. But for each of these things that you are very good at, you need to invest in being the best in that space. That's the only way in which I think you can build your brand and become a leader. You only become a leader if people know what you can do and show how you got there. That's how you become a leader. You can't become a leader by cheating or cutting corners. But when you build a brand in what makes you authentic, you're already a leader. You don't have to have all the money in the world, all the cars or all the houses in the world, but you have to build a brand that when people say your name, they can easily associate it with one or two things that you have done, right? For me, I can easily rely on my research. I can rely on the students that I've trained and the people that I've mentored. That is a leadership voice for me because it's my authentic self.
Yeah. And how, last question, promise. How do you imagine the future of those women and those children in Ghana in science, investigation and entities? Like, from here to 10, 15, 20 years, will the situation be the same? Will it be better? No? What are your predictions on that?
I think if we are able to get through the stereotypes that are existing in our world today, we will be able to make that kind of difference that we want to see. Africa is not a country. Africa is made up of 54 countries with different cultural diversities and different beliefs. That's one stereotype that if we are able to overcome, every child in Africa has a right to move. Africa is not a home of diseases. The narrative right now is too negative. And so, unfortunately, our children are growing up with that negativity, right? We need to change the narrative. When you turn on any news channel, it's like Africa disease, a disease, war, disease. We need to change that narrative to show the successes that we are doing, the innovations that we are having in terms of maybe drug development or new ways of doing things. We need to let our children start seeing that, to change their mindset and remove this Africa poverty disease scenario completely. And we need to also believe in ourselves and know that everything good doesn't necessarily have to come from the global north. My father's mother was an herbalist. She lived to be 112. In fact, my dad even passed away before her, right? And she could just walk into her backyard. If you have a headache or if you have some pain, she would walk into the backyard and come back with a leaf and tell you, boil this for this amount of time. And we have it on our soil. Malaria treatments are from plants that grow in Africa. I have a home garden, which I'm so proud of. And in my home garden, I have lemongrass, dandelion, soursop. All of these have anti-inflammatory and medicinal properties. Why, therefore, do we have to rely on the global north all the time? We need to believe that we have what it takes to solve our own problems. Every Saturday when I was growing up, my mother would give us a chewing stick to brush our teeth. So you chew the stick, and then she'd make charcoal powder and dip it in the charcoal powder and tell you to brush your teeth. Your teeth will be whiter. Along the way, I started hearing that, oh, charcoal is not good for you. Why are you putting it in your mouth? The chewing stick will destroy your teeth. 2026, we have toothpaste with charcoal in it coming from the global north. I'm like, who tricked who? So we need to start believing in ourselves that we didn't get here by chance or because we relied on handouts from the global north. We got here because we knew who we were. And we just need to identify that again and believe in it 100%.
For sure. We need to change the narrative.
And then our children are going to just pick it up.
Sure. I think changing the narrative, not only here, but also in Africa, because people have accidentally embraced that perspective.
I tell you, it's crazy.
It's something that they are hearing every day, like in the news or even social media, or how Africans are looked to from out of Africa. And that's putting things like not in a good way. So narratives are so important.
Just recently, I attended an inaugural lecture which my vice chancellor delivered at the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. And she's a linguist by profession. She made a statement which I found so profound. We use the term vernacular to describe the local languages that we speak. Why? Why? That is our identity. That is who we are. English is actually borrowed. Yeah. And so she made a case that our languages should not be called vernacular. They should be called what they are, our local languages, and not vernacular. And no child in school should be penalized for speaking in their local language. I found that extremely profound.
Of course. Just for finishing, I was actually like some weeks ago in a presentation of a Ugandese writer. She was in Spain presenting her new book. And she was asked by someone in the audience, like, you guys and like African female, you always write books about your history. That's a dangerous question, actually. And he was like this, yeah, because I need time to speak by myself of my history. We are used to hear like how the global north speaks about history in Africa. Let me speak about myself.
Thank you.
And if that means speaking for 40 years more, writing about 40 years of my history and Ugandan history, I will keep doing that.
Spot on.
So for me, that was bravo. We can leave.
Mic drop, pam.
And ciao. So yeah, I just wanted to finish with that reflection because I think we still need to keep speaking out. If that means speak out for 10, 15, 20 years, we should be doing that.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
My pleasure and my deep honor.
It's been great. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
For your prize.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us in a new episode of Beyond Neglected of Anesbat Foundation podcast. And see you on the next episode. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.